Welcome back, everyone, to the front line with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, as always, joined by Joe Rossinello. And once more, dear brothers and sisters, let us go into the breach on the Veritas Catholic Radio Network, 1350 on your AM dial, 103.9 on your FM dial, spreading the truth of the Catholic faith in the New York City metropolitan area. Please be sure to download the app and share it with your friends. You're going to have access to all of our station's content, bearing in mind that we are an EWTN affiliate, so you have our original programming and EWTN. And our guest today is someone who's very well known on EWTN. And please, wherever you see Joe and I on social media, we're particularly focusing on Rumble and X at With Joe and Joe on X, but wherever you see us, please like, subscribe, share, help us out, do all that fun stuff. And as I said, our guest is no stranger to EWTN today. We're very pleased and honored to be welcoming back a friend of the program, and we're proud to call him a friend, Bear Woznick. And Bear has his book, 12 Rules for Manliness. Where have all the Cowboys gone? All right. We encourage everyone to go out there and buy the book. Bear's going to let us know where you can purchase that. And today, we really want to focus on fatherhood. Whoa, Joe Rossinello, there's a naughty, naughty word right there. Maybe I'm going to get canceled for having used the word fatherhood, but oh, how important it is. Bear, we have a lot of conversations, Joe and I, here at the show, not just about our faith, but also about maybe just some common sense things that you could look around in our culture and our society and say, you know what? It's not hackneyed and it's not cliched to say, aside from God himself, okay, which has been shown the door, unfortunately, in many places in our society, is earthly fathers. Knows the importance of earthly fathers to form their children, to bring good people to bring people in the world and form them to be good and moral people. That's like a really somehow, some way, that's become a controversial thing to say. But we're going to get into all of that with Bear. And just to refresh everybody out there, Bear Woznick is a world champion surfer, certified ninja black belt, and sought-after speaker. He is the host of EWTN's The Bear Woznick Adventure Radio Program and EWTN's motorcycle-based immersive reality show series, Long Ride Home with Bear Woznick. A Benedictine oblate, Bear is the author of several books, including Surfer's Guide to the Soul, Deep Adventure, The Way of Heroic Virtue, and the book we're discussing today, 12 Rules for Manliness, Where Have All the Cowboys Gone? Published by Sophia Press. So we will click up, we will put a link in the description. There's going to be a couple of incentives today to buy Bear's book in particular, one of which will be if you click the link in the description, you'll get a 15% discount from the publisher because you know Joe and Joe. And also you can learn more about Bear's Man Cave and Bear's School of Manliness at schoolofmanliness.com. His newest series is Spirit of Adventure TV with Bear and Cindy, featuring their life of adventure, surfing in Hawaii and sailing in the Caribbean, and sharing the good news, most importantly, sharing the good news of Jesus Christ. Our friend Bear Woznick, welcome back to the front line with Joe and Joe, brother.
Hey, aloha, you guys. It was so funny. I was just thinking when we started the show, looking at you two tough guys. I remember when I was a young guy, I was CPA, then worked for New York Bank, and I went to New York, and I was like, nothing made me more nervous than New Yorkers and or a psychiatrist. Those were my two phobias. And then I went to New York on business, and I at one of those cocktail parties, type things you go to for business, and I was talking to a psychiatrist who's a New Yorker. But what I came to find out is that there's nothing more. What I love the East Coast, the New York attitude, because when you talk to people, they're straight shooters for the most part. At least they were back in the day, and you guys certainly are. You just tell it like it is. You don't have to worry about where you stand. There isn't a lot of fake niceness like I was raised with on the West Coast. So yeah, so good to be on the show with you guys again.
Thanks, Bear. And yeah, our attitude is this: it doesn't pay to not be direct. If you got something to say it, damn it, and then let's have a conversation. And
Yeah.
God willing, Bear, we've had these conversations with so many people about the need I mean, speaking right now Even if, again, we'd never rope you into getting into any political discussions here at the show. And I don't think it's a political statement, but even just defending the First Amendment, just getting out there, speaking your mind, talking about the way you talk about it. Look at what Harrison Butker just went through
I love it.
with the
Love
Kansas
it.
City Chiefs. Here's a guy extolling the virtues of motherhood, okay, and being a wife and being a mother, and somehow, some way, I mean, we live in such a bizarro world, topsy-turvy world, that he just got turned into the bad guy by the mainstream media. And my larger point was that, but that's why what you do and what Joe and I are trying to do, and many people out there,
Yeah.
just go out there and speak your mind. Just be a straight shooter, man. You know, a lot of what's going on out there is BS. All right.
Yeah.
And it's our job to call
Call it what
BS.
it is.
That's it. So let's start with a prayer. I'm gonna hand it over to Joe, and like I said, Bear, we'll just have one of our great conversations as we always do.
It's our custom to begin with a prayer to Our Lady in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. Remember, O most gracious Virgin Mary, never was it known that anyone who sought your help or sought your intercession was left unaided. Inspired by this confidence, we fly unto you, a virgin of virgins, our mother. To you we come, for you we stand, sinful and sorrowful. O Mother of the Word incarnate, despise not our petitions, but in your clemency hear and answer us. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. Well, as Joe Pasola said, Bear's a friend of the show. Bear grew up in Santa Cruz, California, the home of the banana slugs.
Oh my God.
I always remember from what was the film with Quentin Tarantino? John Travolta had the shirt, banana
It's
slugs.
I was there when they built that university, and that no cars were allowed on campus. And I remember friends would older kids in their graduate go there majoring in pottery or something like that. It was such a hippie college, and they didn't want to have a mascot like the University of California, Santa Cruz Mountain Lions or something. It was the banana slugs. But I live there in the Redwood Forest. There's a lot of these yellow banana slugs. It's
Well, there you go.
You
I
had to
actually
bring
had
that
a
up.
hat of that year. I thought it was in college. I thought it was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. I've never heard of the banana slugs as a.
And the funny thing is, I've taken apart the movie Pulp Fiction a million times, and the little quirky things that are in there. I never saw that on his T-shirt. Like so now I got to go back and watch it just to see.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You need to order it. Put it under your merchandise there that you sell or something. And get the word out. I thought they would change that name long before then, but we were right there in Santa Cruz, which is still for years it was the hippie capital of the world. I remember when I was young, they protested having the Miss America pageant there. The Miss California was always there, and things started going topsy-turvy, that's for sure. I was speaking of this kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs. So I think he was speaking at the Benedictine College there, I'm not sure, but the crowd got a stand. He got an ovation. Crowd, they loved it. It's just the woke media. And when I went up to Montana last fall to talk about my book, I did my book tour in Montana because it's 12 Rules for Manliness. Where have all the Cowboys gone? So I figured, well, they're probably in Montana. And at a Catholic college there were the women professors wanted to ban me from coming. And finally, the bishop had them read a letter before I spoke, saying we don't necessarily affirm what he's saying or disagree with what he's saying, but in the interest of free speech, he can speak. But they hadn't even read the book. All they did, they just didn't like the title, 12 Rules for Manliness. The university campuses have been taken over by, not women, but feminist propaganda type women, and they hadn't even read the book. They don't like the word manliness. And
well, isn't that the case, Bear? Isn't that what we're going through? It's the dismissiveness that people don't even know. And I think, and I don't think this is some sort of conspiracy theory on my part. They hate manliness because I'm not saying these women that you're talking about, but many people in the culture, they don't like to talk about manliness because the perfect man is Jesus Christ. So you talk about the model of manliness, the model of what it means to be a man, and all that means. It's not just some sort of lip service, the profound love, the sacrifice, all of it. All right, speaking the truth, speaking the truth to those who are in power. All those things, Christ embodies that, and we as Catholics know that. That's how we're supposed to act as men.
I disagree, Joe. Jesus if he was alive today, he'd be down at Starbucks reading poetry. You're misinformed about who Jesus is. I mean, I know he said, "Don't think that I come to bring peace, but a sword." But he would be reading. Why can't we just all get along? His latest poem. But you're right. But the thing is, I think it is a conspiracy. I think it's a demonic conspiracy, and I think that there's a God is Father too, and so Jesus called Satan a father. He said he's the father of lies. But God is actually Father. I remember when I was a young man, we moved to Texas when I was a senior in high school, and I was introduced to chicken. They call it chicken fried steak and tater tots, and I had that for lunch, and I was like in a food coma, trying to survive social studies class. And the professor was just droning on and on and on. And finally, but something happened in that class. Couldn't even understand what she was saying, but I had this epiphany that one day I could participate in bringing a human being into existence, that I could help bring into existence a being that lived forever. Now, I was raised Catholic. I didn't understand a lot, but I was definitely believed in God. But it was just this epiphany that I could be a father. But I used to think that we called God the Father because, well, he's kind of like a father. He provides for us. He loves us. But I didn't realize that the fact is that he eternally begot Jesus. He is Father, and we as men on earth, we're icons of God the Father. And so Satan hates fatherhood. He hates fathers, and he has to bring us down. But if you look at it, I'm not a victim, and the men today shouldn't think of themselves as victims of people tearing them down and attacking their so-called masculinity, whatever that is anymore, because we let it happen. When men in my generation started to encourage girls to get on the pill, and by the way, if you really love me, you'd go to sleep with me, you'd go to bed with me, and then let's not get married, let's move in together. Thomas Aquinas said that the definition of an effeminate man is a man that seeks pleasure. And so when men begin to seek pleasure as opposed to responsibility, as St. John Paul II wrote, love and responsibility was his first writing, except they go hand in hand. When men stop taking responsibility for caring for the woman that he was having sexual relationships with, of course, our masculinity was destroyed. But don't point the finger at anybody other than the men ourselves that brought that on ourselves. And now it's worse because nowadays with pornography, the average guy out there, I was going to say the average Joe, but you guys aren't average, so it's good. I could say that. But the average guy out there, they don't need a woman because they get their lustful urge or whatever satisfied through pornography, and so of course they're sitting on the shelf someplace. So yeah, that's why the title 12 Rules for Manliness, Where Have All the Cowboys Gone? My wife and I were riding along the beach here, driving up towards Diamond Head, and she said, "You're going to love this song," and she turned on the song. I think it was by Paula Cole, and Paula's singing, where's my John Wayne? You go make the money, I'll raise the kids. Where are the happy endings? Where have all the cowboys gone? And women today are asking that question. Wherever we go, it's, there'll be lines of men to get the book, but the women can always get to us first, and they'll say, tell the men we need for them to be men again. We need our men to be men. And so yeah.
Bear, if you see a lot of stuff, okay, and we're gonna get into the book and get into some of the questions, but you triggered a thought in my mind. When you see a lot of stuff, Joe and I have to look at social media because we were finding information and things to talk about, and quite frankly, trying to keep our finger on the pulse of what's going on out there. And along those lines, Bear Woznick joining us here at the front line with Joe and Joe. In some of these forums, these young girls who are either on OnlyFans, or they're dancers, or sometimes straight up prostitutes, okay? Or they just go on these shows and talk about having been very sexually promiscuous from the time they were teenagers. They really, again, I don't get it. They don't understand when one of the guys on the other side of the panel says, I will never marry you, ever marry you. No, it's because you're trying to push something that I just quite frankly don't agree with. Why would you think that I, as trying to be an authentic man, would ever marry you when you're the ones that are only seeking pleasure, and you find it hard to believe that men don't want to marry you. You know where all the cowboys have gone? They've gone and married all the good women out there. That's where they've
Yeah.
gone. And women and the feminists out there, they're all wondering why they can't find men. Well, is it a shock?
Well,
I mean, I think you
they're
know where I'm
looking.
going, Bear.
Well, it's that too. Even promiscuous men aren't going to marry him. No one's going to marry him, and they're married. But if they do get married, it's going to end up, it's just not going to go good because they're not going to be marrying. They're going to be marrying a man boy, because John Wayne. I quote a lot of Louis L'Amour westerns in my book, and a lot of the great westerns we love were based on his books. But in one of John Wayne's movies, he said, "You're born a boy, but you got to become a man." And another quote was, first to be a gentleman, you first have to be a man. And you become a man through responsibility. It goes back to John Paul II's writing, love and responsibility. In Hawaii, we have a word kuleana, which means responsibility. It means an area of stewardship. It really means more your calling, your talos, your purpose as a man in life, your personal purpose. And the way a man gets away from being kind of yucky and weak, that weak soul, is by by taking on responsibility. And John Paul II wrote, the problem with pornography isn't that it shows too much of a woman, it shows too little. My wife is very pretty, but I tell her she's beautiful because beauty is from the inside out. And so they say John Paul II said, you're looking at her as an object of lust, not a subject of love. And so really my 11th chapter in the book is how a man treats a woman defines him. How he treats any woman defines him. And, as a tandem surfer, I met my wife tandem surfing. That's where we paddle into a wave together. I get up, she gets up, and then she has to trust me to lift her. And she does these 45 different, very acrobatic poses. Well, I have to inspire trust in her. I have to be the leader. I'm the one who's going to surf the wave. I have to choose the wave. I have to be strong. I have to be strong enough to lift her. But then I lift her, and men don't lift women anymore. Women think that a man is looking for someone they call them a high value woman who maybe she has a career and she makes good money and she's a social climber. Most men I know aren't interested. It's not that they wouldn't marry a woman who's successful. Well, that doesn't add anything to the table for them. They would rather be with a woman that brings peace to their lives. Number one, takes away the drama, because if you're a real man, you're out there dragging slaying dragons all day long. You don't need a high value woman so now you have two really nice cars instead of just one or something. I mean, I've been interviewing with a lot of women this week who are like an attorney, a nurse, a veterinarian, wonderful, successful women there, but their heart is in the home and their focus is that. And their husbands didn't marry them because they were a high value woman or someone who knew how to show off their body. They marry them because they love them, but they know this woman can bring peace. It's really important. There's a verse that says, husbands, love your wives as Christ loves the church, which means lay down your life for her. But then it says to the women, respect your husbands. And women, some of them will kind of cringe at that. But really, the word respect, I don't know what the Greek is in that, but when a man receives respect from other men or from a woman, to them that equals the word love. That's how men receive love. So when you say that husbands love your wives, it's also say to the women, love your husbands, but do that by respecting them, and showing them that respect. And having a wife that when you come home, there's a peaceful environment. If there's children still in the home, or if there's children that her heart is there, she's cared for them. The man is ready to step in, back her up, and help her. But that's what we value in a woman, not some sexual promiscuous woman. Men who fall into pornography, they need to win that battle. It's not like men are looking for pornography. It's hunting them down. and they should get angry about that and win that battle. And I know so many men that have won that battle by going to confession. Some of them have going to confession daily for a long time until they were able to just totally, win that battle. When we were, I know I'm rambling here, but when we were filming Long Way Home, we had this scene where we rode on our motorcycles and we were carrying the cross through Houston and praying the rosary in front of these 3 brothels. And I remember this one woman stuck her head out. She looked like she was Hispanic and she didn't want to be where she was. And then the enforcer drove up in his Jeep. The kind of like it looked like the boss showed up, and then the enforcer showed up in his Jeep, and he realized there's all these bikers there. But she poked her head out, and then she was pulled back in. Women who are caught up in that often don't want to be there, and the women that are promiscuous, believe me, they got daddy issues. Their dad didn't love them the way they needed to be loved. It's straight, like, I don't know.
Well, that's one of the reasons, Bear, why we have you here on the show today to talk about fatherhood. The book, 12 Rules for Manliness, Where Have All the Cowboys Gone? The Adventure of Fatherhood is actually, one of the chapters. Joe Rossinello, where did you want to go with Bear?
I want to talk about what a father is. We'll define our terms, because I think what happens a lot of times, you get guys, they go to college, they get married, and they think all of a sudden you're going to flip a switch and you're going to be a dad. A dad requires virtue to be a good father, self-sacrifice, and that just doesn't happen. Like you have to. That's the beauty about the Catholic faith. I mean, if you're practicing your faith from the time you have your confirmation, I didn't. I picked it up at 22, but I didn't get married till I was 43. But at the end of the day, you're working on yourself. You're developing virtues. You're going through Lent. You're going through Advents. You're becoming a man. And that is preparing for the time you're going to be a dad. Talk about that, because I think too many people think, oh, I'm just going to do it. No, that doesn't you don't just win the Super Bowl. It doesn't happen that way. Talk about that, Bear, because I know you have a lot to say.
Well, you know what? That's why the chapter on how you treat a woman defines you, and then the adventure of fatherhood, fill your quiver with arrows, are the last 2 chapters. Because all the rest of the book is like the rules for manliness. Rule number 1, a man's got to have a creed and a code he can live by. And then all the other rules, for example, ride the proving trail. Don't just be passing through life. A man needs to be dangerous, a man needs to be able to stand his ground, ride for the brand, so all those lead you on that path towards being married and being a father. And young men specifically, pray for that woman. You may not even know her yet, but you're going to eventually marry. And she's out there, and treasure her right now. And also for yourself, treat her as if you're married to her now. Be faithful to her. Don't be chaste towards her. Don't be promiscuous. Be chaste towards her. And then, by the way, so many young men go to college, they major in the humanities or history or social science or anything but something that'll help provide for their family, unless they want to be a professor the rest of their lives. They end up having a huge debt and then working at Starbucks. So, I mean, I know when I was a young man, when I had that epiphany, I worked 3 jobs while I went to college. I mean, college was less expensive, but so was our wages. And I remember I came out of college with just less than $1,000 worth of debt. And I worked and prepared, thinking someday I'm going to meet a woman that I'm going to marry and I'm going to have children. So I chose the path where I thought this would be something I'd be interested in doing, but it's also a path that I can make a living. So I went into accounting, and it's served me very well. It's why I can have a life of adventure as a CPA, because I have 4 months a year when I'm extremely busy, and then I can be a kind of a gentleman adventurer. But why not go to a trade school, and get a welding job where you're making 60 to 70 to 80 to $100,000 a year. So prepare it. There's a Napoleon Dynamite. I don't know if you've seen that film, but we got to meet the actors from the film. I even got to play football with Uncle Rico here about 2 years ago. But one of the characters in the movie says, girls like guys that have skills, and I don't have any skills. Yeah, acquire some skills. develop skills that'll give you a career that you can provide for your family, and along the way, look at how God's made you. He's given you abilities. He's given you certain inclinations and desires, but he's also given you limitations, and every one of those are a gift from the Lord. Because, as you said, Joe, developing virtue, the primary virtue we need to develop comes under the virtue of justice, and that is humility. And when you have limitations, it causes you to have to grow in humility and have to grow in all of the virtues. And so even your limitations are gifts from God. And then the abilities that God's given you. So don't feel like you have to go find a job that's going to be super fulfilling to you. And, oh, that's the job I've always wanted to have. Think of it as this: work itself is fulfilling. Work in and of itself has dignity, and the fulfillment is in providing for your families. It's not an, oh, I have got this dream of a lifetime career that I've always wanted to have. That can be, and I'm fortunate, for me, it has been like that. But the work part is not about, oh, I'm going to go there today to the office, and I'm going to find great fulfillment. It's not about how much money you make. It's not about the bigger, better deal. I like that theme from Fight Club. It's not the contents of your wallet. It's not the size of your bank account. So, yeah, men, you could be a traditional man, and women. I was talking to Matt Swain the other day, from Sunrise Morning Show, and he was saying, we know 100 women that are virtuous and are looking for a good man, but it's hard to find a good man. It's hard to bring them to a good man, to introduce them. My wife is always trying to do that magic, but it's hard to find good men. So
I want to talk about what you just said, though. Hold on.
We have to go to Joe.
Okay.
We got to go to break. So yeah, I know. And and Joe, and then when we come back, you could continue with that. I just did want to make one quick comment, and then we'll go to the break. And I want to give Bear a chance to let people know where to buy the book. I'm going to just tell you very quickly, 10 seconds, that when I think about work, and I quite frankly don't like my job, I'm not going to lie to you, but I'm glad you said that, because you know what keeps me getting up every day and going to that job? The fact that my soon just turned 15-year-old son knows that I will do whatever I have to do to provide for my wife.
Right on. About time somebody said it.
Yeah. So now, Bear, the book is 12 Rules for Manliness. Where have all the Cowboys gone? We know it's available at Sophia Institute Press, so you could click the link in the description and you'll get a 50% discount. But Bear also can get a little help here. Go ahead, Bear. Let our audience know.
2 places. You can go to our website too, schoolofmanliness.com. Join the Man Cave and become part of our monthly curriculum on manliness, and you can buy the book there. But if you go to Amazon and buy it, it also helps us there too, because it's been up in the top 10 and it's bumping in the top 20 right now, books for men. And then if they see that, they go, oh, we'll promote this book. So then they become part of our evangelistic effort. But wherever you can, Sophia Institute Press, of course, too.
I love it. To make
stores,
Amazon,
Barnes and Noble stores everywhere. It's everywhere right now, I heard.
But what's great is to make Amazon your marketing guy for a book like this. Gotta love that. So anyway, You're with the front line with Joe and Joe. Bear Woznick is with us at the Veritas Catholic Radio Network. Remember, wherever you're either listening to this, certainly on the podcast on Veritas, please share it with your friends. If you're watching it on social media, please share it with your friends. These are the conversations like this are the reason why Joe and I decided 6 years ago to do the front line with Joe and Joe. So we have Bear, we have him for another segment, and we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, everyone, to the front line with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, Joe Resinello, weighing in the breach with Bear Woznick. We're discussing the adventure of fatherhood, which is a chapter in his book, The 12 Rules for Manliness. Where have all the Cowboys gone? Now, you can buy it from Sophia Press. Click the link in the description. You'll get a 15% discount, but you'll also help out Bear if you buy it from Amazon, because it'll push them up in the algorithm, and they'll actually promote the book too. So in this case, and we'll make an exception once in a while, we are going to allow you to buy the book from Amazon. Joe Resinello, I cut you off earlier, my brother, because we had to go to a break. So where do you want to go?
I want to pick up where Bear was talking about that a father provides, because this is something that Bear notes in his book There's no way around this. And obviously, our audience is primarily Catholic. And he talked about a man has to be focused. If you want to get married and if you want to have kids, that costs money. Let's be real. I have 5 kids. It costs money. Diapers cost money. And if we're Catholic, we're open to life, which means most probably you're going to have children. And that costs money. And you said something that like triggered a memory in my head, Bear. I have a similar background as you. I was an auditor. I went to business school and I didn't like it that much in my 20s. In my 20s, I was figuring out what I wanted to do. And I left the business world. I was auditing, traveling, and I went back to business school and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was jogging and I was about to turn 30. I remember exactly where I was. It was like an epiphany. You used that word because I always wanted to get married. And it was an epiphany. It came to me like a strike of lightning. Joe, you have to go back and do that job because if you're going to get married, you have to be able to provide for your wife. And honest to God, it was like, and I did.
Praise
and I went
God.
back and I started to do that. And then when I did get married, I was able to provide for my wife and family because of that. Like it was literally like a lightning bolt.
It was the Holy Spirit.
Talk to the Catholic men because you know, to your point, listen, if you want to get married and have kids, and I've seen those, I'm sure you have too at the Catholic schools, these kids, they're nice kids. Listen, guy, that costs money. Like diapers cost money. Like you're not going to magically have 8 kids.
But you know what? It's like as I had my first child. First of all, as a father, it does radically change you. I remember I thought, this baby, I'm going to break her, and then within 30 seconds, like no one gets to hold her but me. I'm going to protect her. There was that feeling of fear. But the thing about it is, I always felt that God would provide for that next child. And I think that's probably why I got successful. I was motivated to work harder, but I think God opened doors and closed doors for me along the way so that I had the faith to walk, to have the child be open to life and so on. And I think that's probably why God's prospered me in that way. Because I made a lot of decisions along the way, what to do, what not to do, but also I think He blessed me. I trusted in God to be the ultimate provider. So, and there's another verse that comes to mind too, for young men especially. I think the verse of the century for this generation is the verse that when the angel spoke to Joseph, "Do not be afraid to take Mary to you as your wife." Young men are afraid to get married. They're afraid to even date. And so to challenge you that there are good women out there, and I know you don't want to be taken advantage of, as this happens in many of the cases. I know you have a million reasons why to not be in the arena, but God's given you the grit. You're factory loaded to be a father and a husband, and you need the grace, of the Holy Spirit. But with the grit and grace that God provides for you, do not be afraid to date a woman. When I was in Montana, Joe, this young man kept coming up. And by the way, I just want to say this about the book. A lot of men don't like to read books. You will read this book. You won't. This book is designed for you to read it in shorter chapters. But I've had several men said that don't like to read, that read the whole book through on a weekend and then started over. Because it's like Joe and Joe sitting there talking with you about manliness. It's not like the normal reading. But when we were up there, this one young man kept coming up to all the little meetings we were having at this one college campus. And I said, there's been this girl kind of stalking you, wherever you are, she's kind of near you. And I said, you should ask her out. And he turns and I pointed to her. He goes, oh, yeah, I think so too. I think she might like me. Well, why don't you ask her out? Oh, I asked her if she was going to go to this dance. That's not asking her out. Ask her out for a cup of coffee and then ask her out to the dance. And he did. And she lit up and he lit up. And so the word of today is, do not be afraid to take Brenda or Evelyn or whoever to you as your wife. Pursue marriage. It is God's will for your life. And when you pursue God's will, it challenges you. It's a wall, as David said, lead me to the wall too high to climb it, I'll climb it. But it also gets rid of that yuckiness in you, that weakness. And you go through the resistance training of things being tough, and you grow into your manhood. So don't be afraid to pursue. And if ask a girl out, don't just hang out with her, ask her out. After 100 days, you should know if she's someone you might want to marry. And if she's not, then be the man and say, we're done. And if you think she might be someone you can marry, stay with her. But by the end of the year, you should know whether you're going to ask her to marry her or not. If you're not, let her free. So someone who fits her better will. Don't be a coward, man up and pursue really, pursue marriage. It's worthy of your calling. It's that toughness and the difficulty of what's gonna make you a man, and take away that yucky weakness you feel in your soul, that fractured feeling you have in your soul.
Absolutely. Bear Woznick joining us here at the front line with Joe and Joe. Please go out and buy the book, 12 Rules for Manliness. Where have all the Cowboys gone? Bear, let's talk. Actually, you know what? I think I was a little bit of a big mouth in the first segment. I'm going to keep it with Joe. Joe, where do you want to go?
I want to talk about a father is also not just a provider. He's the priest of the home. It's very important that a father is a man of God. One of the pillars of my marriage, we've been married 10 and a half years. We pray the rosary together at night, and the kids get older. We got 2 of them now. I make them stay one. I got one in my hand right now too. 2, they stay for a decade, the 2 oldest. And as soon as they get old, like just to get them a little bit at a time, and then we'll have the whole crew, whole crew there. Talk about that, Bear, because I know you're on the same page. It's so important.
I love that. They stay for just a decade, some of the older ones, right? I think that's so good because you don't want to burn them out. At some point you got to provide just the right amount of Catholicism and Christianity. But there's a verse that says, "Teach your children while you're on the way with them." And I remember, for me, every time I went to run an errand, go to Home Depot or something, I always would take just one child with me. Even on some of my business trips or our surfing adventures, so that I could have one-on-one time with them. We just were sailing the Caribbean, and my 2 youngest sons join us out there. They're adults now, but while you're on the way with them, teach them in the way that they should go, and when they're older, they will not depart from it. Well, the way that they should go isn't just that they should be Christians, strong Christians, but knowing who they are in their nature. Each of my children is so unique, and that from the moment of birth, that each of them are so unique, and help them understand who they are. It was my father who invited Jim Serbascu over to our house when I was a senior in high school, who was the chief financial officer for a corporation, and described to me what he did for a living. And I realized Dad had him over here to show me what my future could be, because my dad knew who I was. My dad was a businessman, but he was far from being a number cruncher, And so my dad knew the way that I should go, and he understood me, and he opened doors, or at least put me in front of doors. And then in the area of the priesthood too, we know that your children, when they wake up in the morning, when they accidentally wake up too soon, do they see you sitting in your prayer chair? Do they know that you're in the habit of prayer? You don't just talk about it, you do it. When the family is having say watching a film or something, is the father there with a controller to turn it off or to change channels or fast forward through things that are not healthy for the family? Are you actually protecting your family? And then the Pew Research study that says that if a mother brings the children to church and the father isn't there, about 1/3 of those that go to church will stay in their faith. But if the father and mother go together, and then about 75% will stay. But if only the father does, if the mother doesn't come to church, but the father brings the children, 2/3 will stay in the faith, which is profoundly shows you the impact a father can have, on raising children up in the Lord. And we were at the Napa Institute, and someone asked Archbishop Chaput, "Can you tell us what's 2 or 3 really good programs that we can bring into our churches that will help us to evangelize?" I loved what he said. He said, "Is there a program that you think we could use?" And he said, "Well, yeah, get married, have lots of children, bring them up in the Lord. That's God's plan for salvation. So yeah, so we need to, as fathers, I remember Doug Barry sharing about how when a priest told him, you need to go in your home and pray, bless your children with holy water, or sprinkle your wife and children with holy water and bless the walls. And he was so embarrassed. He had waited till they went to sleep, and he was doing that. And then I think his wife woke up, what are you doing? But we need to be the spiritual leaders of our home.
Absolutely. Bear Woznick, let me ask you this. And if you're just joining us here, we're being joined by Bear Woznick, a friend of the show, and we're talking about a very important topic, manliness and the 12 rules for manliness. Right there, where have all the Cowboys gone? You could buy it at Sophia, get a discount. We would prefer this time around, buy it from Amazon, because it's really going to hit the algorithm and help push Amazon to basically be the ones marketing this book for Bear. Bear, let me see if I can preface this, because sometimes I think people might listen to us and they think that, like somehow we might be a little otherworldly. I'm going to tell you one of my favorite things in the world to do, okay, is watch the New York Jets with a glass of brown liquor right next to me. All right.
Absolutely.
Love it. Okay. My son knows I love it. But now here's where I'm going.
I've heard of the New York Jets. They play soccer or something.
Exactly.
They're a football team, but we'll get into that in another show. But here's the thing.
Raiders, go Raiders.
Raider Nation, baby.
We enjoy it. We have our feet on the ground. We enjoy, let's say, for argument's sake, in the case that I'm bringing up, okay, I love having a drink, let's say in my leisure time, pop on the Jet game during football season. All right. Or my son has grown into a Celtics fan. So Celtics are in the finals. Now here's the thing where I'm going with
I've
this.
heard of them too.
But here's one thing that I know. Okay. My son, sees me doing the front line with Joe and Joe. He hears the show. He's not stupid. He's mature enough at 15 years old to know that Uncle Joe and I could lose our jobs, get canceled. He knows that we've gone to pray in front of abortion clinics, okay? Gotten into the public square, went down and prayed with a bunch of Catholic men in front of the state capitol. All right. Not there with signs and screaming and shrill and purple hair. All right. People, men with their weapon, their rosary in their hand. Here's where I'm going. We could do the things, okay, of leisure and enjoy them. God gives them to us, okay? But how important is it for particularly sons, I'm not discounting daughters, particularly sons, to see their fathers getting into the public square, to know that there's a society and a culture that needs to be evangelized, where their papa is out there in the fight, okay, to try to have a society that pursues the good, the true, and the beautiful. I think you know where I'm going.
Yeah, I like that what you said though about I was a Raider fan my dad was a Raider fan, I was a Raider fan, my sons are Raider fans, like father, like son, and there's a lot to that. When like our friend Mark Houck, when he was standing in front of the abortion clinic with his young son, his son was with him. So as you and I think don't over spiritualize everything, but just being a real man, your sons will learn to emulate you. And as far as this cancel culture goes, the cancel culture to me reminds me of coquettish high school girls. When in high school, if we had a problem with another guy, we just might have a fight. It might break out on the football field where it looked like it was a tackle, but it wasn't. You might have elbowed someone in the throat on the basketball court, or maybe but men, when they have a problem with a man, they're very direct. Women are the ones that gossip and cancel culture and want to have the in crowd. That's the way women fight. Women don't fight usually by punching someone out. They're not that direct. So this whole cancel culture to me is just a very effeminate way of trying to, make your point or have your way. But we as men, if our sons see us speaking out directly, there's a verse that says, St. Peter said, have a reason for your faith, be able to prepare a reason, understanding. And how do you understand our position on all these things? Is it makes total sense, is read the catechism every day, just read one page. It'll inform you and form you. And I love the catechism not because I'm a Catholic and, I got to believe whatever it says. It makes total sense. And I hear sometimes commentators, people on the street being interviewed, or a commentator someplace speaking, and I go, oh, they're Catholic. they're using those Catholic words. They're using you can tell they've done their Catholic homework, and they understand it with such clarity. Because what Jesus said 2,000 years ago, what Aquinas said 1,000 years ago, it stands. It still makes sense today. And so know your faith so that you can, when you're in the arena, you can speak. And so many men I know too, by the way, lots of men in the man cave, not lots of, but several. They were asked to be part of the Pride Week Rainbow Committee at their work, and them saying, because of my faith, I can't participate. They didn't get fired, but they didn't get promoted anymore either.
Yeah.
So it's a sort of white martyrdom. But it doesn't it feel good to make a stand? There's a verse that says, 1 Corinthians 16, act like men. It doesn't say act like a man. It says act like men. That implies brotherhood, that you have to be with other men that are like-minded. Act like men. Be on the alert. Stand your ground. And then it says, do all things in love. So it isn't macho stuff that we're talking about, although it's manly stuff. The root word for man in Latin is virtue. Or also Homo sapien, you get the word Homo sapien, humu is earth. Be grounded. Adamo means earth. So men are made out of mud. We're made to have the grit, and I always emphasize the grace to stand our ground, be on the alert, speak what needs to be spoken. St. Francis, when he was going into this one little town, the story, with a young a young monk, and he asked St. Francis, what are we going to speak on today when we get to this village? And St. Francis says, oh, nothing. We're just going to, be show them what it is to be a Christian, and we won't need words. We'll do it with action. Well, that's true. But in this day and age, I think words, he says, he basically said, we'll only use words when necessary. They're necessary now. It's necessary to speak out, to stand your ground. And men, run for city council, run for the school board, be involved in teaching confirmation. Oh, women have taken over the church. Well, that's because it's because we left a huge vacuum. Help lead a youth group, coach, even if you have to. I know it's hard to admit. It's so hard. Coach soccer. I know it's hard to say, to teach anybody soccer but teach them. Don't just come for the fourth quarter of a football game. Be the assistant coach when they're young. And if you have to teach them soccer, then I know when my son was playing soccer, I played catch with my friend with a football on the sidelines through the whole game.
Bear, I want to hand it over to Joe, but I will say this. I think I did, and again, the line from St. Francis, I think sometimes gets a little obscured, right? And Joe and I talk about it on the show all the time. Yes, it is attributed to Francis when he said, evangelize and use words when necessary. I am paraphrasing. Okay. But then some people make it seem like you don't have to use words. It's only the way you live your life. It's almost like a compartmentalized Catholicism. Just worry about going to church or praying your rosary. No, that's the foundation. Totally agreed. No question about it. If you're not living a Catholic life, a Christian life, then your words are going to fall on deaf ears. But don't think for a second, but particularly now, Bear, and I want to hand it over to Joe. I don't want to get too long-winded, but particularly now in the culture that we live in this time in history, this moment in history, you're damn right. We're going to use some words. The foundation is the way we live our lives, but we got to get out there because Jesus said a lot of words. But that's my rant. I'm sticking to it. Joe Rasanella.
I'm going to talk about protecting. A father protects. And, we're very blessed, Bear. We talk to a lot of great people, you included. You're part of the family, and you're always welcome on the show. And we're blessed to have you. I remember what Dr. Ray Guarendi said when we spoke with him. He's like a father of like 10 kids. A lot of them are coming from all different backgrounds, fostering to adoption. He said this: evil comes into the house like a mist under the door. And I always remember that as a father. Evil is not, you talk about a man is direct. The devil isn't direct. The devil comes at you in a lot of different ways. A man has to be alert, which means his spiritual eyes have to be focused. But we got to watch what comes in our house. It comes through the commercials. It comes through the TV. It comes through the phone, your kids, the conversations, who they play with. It's not direct. We have to be focused on that mist. Talk about that as a protecting element of what a father is, because that's our job.
Yeah, it's asymmetrical warfare, isn't it?
It's not direct. Like people think
Yeah.
that, like, but it's like a television. You could be watching TV with your kid. You mentioned the remote. The commercial might be like, oh my gosh, that's insane.
99. Well, when we're watching TV, we always turn down during commercials. We just turn it down. There's no need to watch it anyway. So we automatically turn it down because that's a good time for if you're with your family to talk too. What you're watching and just what about life. But yeah, and what about the what's happened in the public schools, or even like I said, I was on a Catholic college campus. What about what's being taught in the schools? There's a gift of discernment and what it is the best way to describe the gift of discernment is the ability to smell a rat. When there's a demon present or there's a demonic thing happening, you should be able to smell it like you can smell a dead rat. So to be aware of, I mean, most films you really can't watch.
Agreed. I agree.
Or you're going to be skipping through most of them. I mean, even my wife and I were watching them. She knows I've got the channel changer and I just skip. I don't comment because it just brings negative things into the home. But if maybe it's a good storyline, but something now they got to do their political propaganda, we just skip through it.
Or nudity. Or
right. Yeah. It's automatic. You know, it's coming. You just skip through it. But then you should watch TV shows like Long Ride Home with, our motorcycle TV show. So we can do something about it too. Bring that, like The Chosen is such a good TV series. Bring those types of things. But you don't want to just isolate your children and have them only know, Christian films and things like that. But if you're watching something on TV or something like that, the father should always have the remote in his hand. He has to. But go to the school and find out what your children are learning. It takes a man and a woman together going there and figuring that out. And maybe they need to be homeschooled, and what a blessing that would be. Or maybe you need to find another school for them, because the last thing I would do is if I was a parent, would send one of my kids off to the normal college experience. It's not normal anymore.
Agreed.
I would make sure that where they're going is where they're going to get. They're not going to be right at that age when they're, when you're 18 or 19 years old, your brain isn't totally formed yet, and you're so ready you're so open to being brainwashed. So I would be very careful where I'd send my student off to college.
You said something that's very important, because I believe a father has to be in the state of, well, all Catholics should be in a state of grace. But when a father is in the state of grace, your intellect is not dulled. And frankly, you have eyes to see. And you hit it right on the head, Bear. You could smell a rat. You could see it. That's the father's job in the house. And that it was the sin of Adam. Adam should have threw the snake out of the garden.
There you go.
But you have to have eyes to see. And I don't know if we're thinking of it in those terms as a father and as a man. That's your job. And that's why we have to stay in the state of grace, because we'll see it before it happens. And you're 100% correct. That's what we have to do.
Yeah, and you do that by meditating on God's word and by being informed, by reading the catechism and reading good books. You're the Holy Spirit. You can smell that rat, but also the Holy Spirit within you will be grieved. When something's not right, you'll sense it in your spirit, a sense of grief. That this is grieving the Holy Spirit. And so because you've been meditating on God's word, as a banker, I mean, I'm not a banker. Well, I was a commercial banker, but I never was the one who handled the money. But when I was early on as a CPA, I audited banks. And, they never taught us what counterfeit money looked like. Not that we would ever really, be involved in that, but they taught us that the tellers at the window, how they taught them to find counterfeit money wasn't to show them, here's a counterfeit bill, and here's a counterfeit bill, and here's a counterfeit bill, and this is what it looks like. the way they taught them. And by the way, I remember, Joe, when my first baby was born, 4 a.m, the baby's born, mother's fine. I go to work, and we're audited at bank, and we, you do all the paperwork in the back room, looking at loans and stuff like that. But you always go out and you pull from one of the bank tellers and you do a test count on the cash. I pulled the bait money out, and alarms started sounding. There's that money you're not supposed to touch, and so. But anyway, I learned that the tellers there, the way they learned to spot counterfeit money was by learning what real money looked like. So we as Christians, we need to know our faith. We don't have to know what all the counterfeit is. We don't need to learn about all the lies of the devil. We just need to know what's real and then communicate that to our kids. And when you see a young man come in your home who you can just sense that there's something not quite right with him. It may be that he hasn't been raised right or something. He's not for your daughter. I used to, trained in martial arts most of my life. I used to like to be out front with one of my sons swinging my ninja sticks whenever the new kid was coming to ask my daughter out on a date.
That's a message.
Now, scare friend.
Yeah.
Bear, unfortunately, we're up on the end of the show, so we got to leave it there. I do want to leave a moment for you to let everybody know. Now, I'll let everybody know they can buy the book by clicking the link in the description and get a discount from Sophia Press. And the book, as Bear is holding up, 12 Rules for Manliness, Where Have All the Cowboys Gone? Bear, tell everybody again where they could follow you on social media and also the Amazon situation.
Yeah, if you go to Amazon, we've been bumping close to hitting #1 with our book for many months. We've been in the top 10, the top 20. If you happen to go there, when it does that well, Amazon starts to promote the book for us. But you can buy it at any bookstore, Sophia Press. But go to our website too, man. The School of Manliness. It's schoolofmanliness.com. I finally was able to get that website.
All right.
It used to be Bear's School of Manliness. Now it's a schoolofmanliness.com. And men, you can join our non-Facebook community, the Man Cave, as well as our go with us through our monthly curriculum on the School of Manliness, and lead your sons through it too, because they can't be parts of the Man Cave, but they can get their own login for the School of Manliness.
Absolutely.
There
Bear
you go.
Woznick, always a pleasure. Always a pleasure, our brother, and always a great conversation. Thanks again. I'm sure we'll be speaking very soon.
Well, as Doug Barry says, gentlemen, let's go save the world.
I love
That's it. Let's go. Love it. Let's go save the world. Thank
And
you, Bear.
Dr.
Thank
Ray-
you all out there. Thank you all out there for joining us at the Veritas Catholic Radio Network, 1350 on your AM dial, 103.9 on your FM dial, spreading the truth of the Catholic faith to the New York City metropolitan area. Download the app, share it with your friends, share this conversation with your friends, and wherever you're watching this on social media, please do the same and help Joe and I out. Like, subscribe, share, do all that fun stuff. Remember, until the next time, that our conversation is your conversation, and that conversation is going on everywhere. We'll talk to you soon.